The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kirexith's massive form collapsed onto the crystalline floor. The dragon diplomat's wings, once capable of soaring through nebulae, now lay useless and crumpled against scales that had lost their iridescent shimmer. A neural toxin from the recent assassination attempt had severed the connection between his ancient mind and his powerful body. "Please," Karaxith's voice resonated through the chamber, though weakened. "I can't walk or fly. The treaty signing is in 2 hours. Without my presence, the Andromeda Accords will fail. Billions will die in the coming war." The assembled representatives of 100 species shifted uncomfortably. The Velkari physician had already delivered the grim prognosis. The damage was irreversible without months of regenerative therapy. The Catherine engineers calculated that even their most advanced gravity harnesses couldn't support a creature of Kiraxith's mass. 15 tons of muscle, bone, and ancient wisdom. Nova Chen, humanity's junior ambassador, stood frozen in the observer's gallery. Her dark eyes tracked the scene below with the calculating precision of someone who'd spent too long in war zones. She'd been assigned to this posting precisely because Earth needed fresh faces, people without the scars of the human covenant wars visible on their skin, even if those scars remained etched in their minds. Beside her, Samuel Rodriguez leaned heavily on his cane, his weathered face unreadable. The veteran had lost his legs in the Battle of Proxima Station 20 years ago. Now, at 63, he served as humanity's cultural attaché, a ceremonial position for a hero everyone wanted to honor, but nobody knew what to do with. "They're going to let the treaty fail," Nova whispered, her fists clenching. 3 years of negotiations, and it's going to collapse because no one can move one injured diplomat 200 meters. Samuel's jaw tightened. He'd watched the Velkari shake their heads, seen the Catherine throw up their appendages in defeat. Species that could fold space and manipulate gravity had given up on a simple problem of mechanics and mass. "That's because they're thinking like engineers," Samuel said quietly. He pushed away from the railing and began making his way toward the chamber floor. "Samuel, what are you—" "Get me a comm link to our ship," he called back, "and tell them I need every able-bodied human on this station in the main chamber. Now!" Nova's eyes widened, but years of military discipline kicked in. She was already moving before her conscious mind caught up with his plan. 20 minutes later, Kiraxith watched in confusion as humans began filing into the council chamber. They came in maintenance jumpsuits, diplomatic uniforms, service crew coveralls, 47 humans, ranging from teenagers to elderly engineers. They carried no advanced equipment, no gravity nullifiers or kinetic manipulators. They carried ropes, poles, and something the translation matrix identified as canvas stretchers. Samuel stood before the dragon diplomat, leaning on his cane. "Ambassador Kiraxith, my people have a saying. When technology fails, you fall back on technique. And when technique isn't enough, you rely on sheer human stubbornness." "I don't understand," Kiraxith rumbled. "Your species' physical strength is unremarkable. I weigh more than all of you combined." "True," Samuel acknowledged with a slight smile. "But we've been moving things heavier than ourselves since we were living in caves. We dragged mammoths across ice, raised stone monuments that weighed thousands of tons, and built pyramids that still stand after millennia. We didn't do it with gravity generators or anti-mass fields." He turned to the assembled humans. "We did it with leverage, coordination, and the absolute refusal to accept that something can't be done." Nova had already calculated the angles. "We'll use the council floor's support pillars as anchor points," she announced, her voice carrying the crisp authority of a combat engineer. 3 rope teams for stability, stretcher platform underneath for weight distribution. We moved together, one step at a time. The other species watched in fascination as the humans worked. They rigged their rope systems with practiced efficiency, sliding reinforced canvas beneath Kyraxith's massive form. Samuel directed the operation with quiet authority, positioning teams with the precision of someone who'd coordinated far more chaotic evacuations under fire. "This is madness," the Velkari physician muttered. "They'll injure themselves. Humans are fragile." "Fragile, maybe," Nova replied, testing a knot. "But we're also too stupid to know when something's impossible." She wasn't entirely joking. She could feel the weight of human history behind this moment. Every time her species had looked at an impossible task and decided to try anyway. "On my mark," Samuel called out. "Remember, smooth and steady. This isn't about strength, it's about coordination. Ready? Lift!" 47 humans pulled in perfect synchronization. Kyraxith rose 6 inches off the ground, suspended in a web of human ingenuity and determination. "Forward, step." They moved as one organism, a many-legged creature of rope and sweat and willpower. Each step was carefully measured. Samuel called the rhythm like an ancient sea shanty, and the humans responded with the unconscious coordination of a species that had been working together to survive since before they'd discovered fire. The chamber was silent except for Samuel's steady cadence and the shuffle of human feet. Other species watched as this supposedly weak race demonstrated something their technology had made them forget. Sometimes the solution wasn't more power. It was more people working together. 200 meters. It took them 43 minutes. When they finally lowered Kyraxith onto the signing platform, every human was drenched in sweat. Several had torn muscles. Nova's hands were bleeding from rope burns she hadn't noticed acquiring. Samuel's cane had been abandoned somewhere in the first 50 meters. He stood supported by 2 younger crew members, his face gray with exhaustion, but his eyes blazed with satisfaction. Kyraxith stared at the humans in silence for a long moment. Then his voice, strengthened by emotion, filled the chamber. "I have lived for 300 of your years. I have seen species rise and fall, but I have never witnessed anything quite like this." He turned his ancient gaze to Samuel. "You risked harm to yourselves for a treaty that primarily benefits other species." "Why?" Samuel leaned heavily on Nova's shoulder, too tired to hide his pain. "Because war is easy, Ambassador. Peace is hard. And humans have learned after too many mistakes that hard is always worth it." The treaty was signed an hour later. And across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as technologically primitive began to understand something the humans had known all along. The most advanced technology in the universe means nothing if you've forgotten how to simply refuse to give up.